Hello, everybody. Good morning. It is Hit and Hustle from irishsportsdaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, with the post-mortem morning after show from the Notre Dame loss yesterday to Marshall, 26-21. Turn on this light. That's much better. So we are going to go. We're going to talk about the game. We are going to talk about comments. We are all going to we're gonna get through this. We're gonna heal together, and then we're gonna talk about where Notre Dame can go from here, and my thoughts on how things went yesterday and where they're gonna go. Obviously, we're waiting for Tyler Buckner news to see if what that injury is gonna be, if it's gonna be a long-term thing. Personally, I just watching it, and the fact that he was ruled out right away, and the fact that he didn't come back, and Marcus Freeman didn't really know the severity. I can't imagine that he's going to play next week, and that's going to obviously start a debate on whether the answer should be Drew Pine or Steve Angeli, and that those things have to get sorted out. But first and foremost, thank you everyone for tuning in so far today. We got a bunch of people just joining the show right now. I appreciate that. If you're new here, if you've never been here before, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button on the video if you like what you see. And we do this we're going to do this every week, a morning after show. I can't do every single post game. So Steel Horseman's asking if Mike Frank is going to be on this show. This is good. This show is just going to be me. Generally speaking, right? If Jamie or Mike wants to jump on, anytime they obviously can. But this is more of a me thing. I don't like to put too much on them because Jamie has to write. Jamie has to break down the game, and he has to put out an article about it. And Mike has a lot of things going on. And for the reason that Mike hasn't been on the post game reaction shows is because of other commitments that have come up. And he told me before the game, like on Friday. Last Friday, that he couldn't join the show, and that's why he brought me on, right? Because he can't always do that sort of thing, so he brought me on so I can run that. What's the man say? Good morning, Chris Jenkins. Good morning, Notre Dame for life. This is some serious, this is some serious stuff. It is. It's not good. You'll probably get. We'll probably get Mike tomorrow. We'll definitely be on Power Hour, so you're going to hear his thoughts. Go Greg. Yeah, thank you very much. We're just gonna put out some comments for right now. How is Blake Fisher so lost and bullied on the line? I don't see him doing that. I do think his level is not what it was last year. I don't want to call it regression because he only played in 2 games, but it hasn't been what it was. You're right. Like I think we expected dominance. We definitely haven't seen that, not just from him, but not from all either. And I think that's part of the reason why Notre Dame is in this position. I think they expected for the offensive line to be a strength of this team. Like one of the things that carried the team. I mean, when I did the Rakes report, we ranked the offensive lines. I had them first. And I had the defensive line second. So what we expected to be the strengths are not the strengths. And that is one recipe for a team that is going to underachieve severely. When you expect something to be really good and it isn't, that's because Notre Dame clearly thought they would be better because their game plan going into Ohio State was to control the line of scrimmage, is to control the ball. And if you can't run the ball, right? Notre Dame is at 3 yards a carry through the first 2 games this year, right? So that's and obviously that includes sacks, but Audric Estime is yesterday 10 carries, 33 yards, right? Logan Diggs, I think he was 7 for 7 or 11 for 11, something like that. I mean, 1 yard carry, right? So that's not going very well right now, and it's a big problem. So we should have. So this is kind of tough, right? We should have grabbed a quarterback in the transfer portal when we had a chance. So, Greg, thank you for joining the show. You have a great name. So the thing about that is it's very hard to to grab a quarterback in the portal who obviously isn't going to start, right? Notre Dame was going to go with Buckner, right? So uh, to grab a quarterback where it's like you're coming in to be the backup, right? And obviously in hindsight, it's like, well, why wasn't a quarterback brought in to compete with Buckner? Like even then, right? A quarterback wants to know they are going to have the job, right? It's very rare for a quarterback to transfer somewhere where it's a true competition, right? And I think Notre Dame wanted Tyler Buckner to be the guy. I think Tommy Rees took his commitment when he was a sophomore. Notre Dame has always been very high on Tyler Buckner, so they wanted him to be the player this year. So that's the situation. So it's hard to grab a quarterback in the portal. I think a better question is why a receiver wasn't brought into the portal, right? Because they could definitely use one. Speaking of stats, right? I'm just going to bring up the snap counts for the game yesterday on offense, and well, that's the report. You have three receivers basically taking the lion's share of the snaps, right? So you have Braden Lindsey at 66, Lorenzo Styles at 65, Jaden Thomas at 58 snaps. And then you don't get to another wide receiver until Matt Salerno, who brought in 10, right? And Joe Wilkins brought in 6. They're three deep at wide receiver right now, right? And that is an issue where Notre Dame obviously should have Notre Dame needed to bring in a transfer at wide receiver, and they did not, and that's going to be a problem for them going forward. C-Mac, what's going on, brother? Appreciate you always being on the show. Move Buckner to wide receiver. That's not gonna. Well, that's gonna be tough considering his shoulder isn't where it needs to be. Let's see. I'm just gonna check some of the chats. We need someone to step up. So here's the thing. This is what I would say, right? So let's assume, let's just assume that Tyler Buckner is going to be out, right? You know what? Let me hang tight, everybody. Let me. I'm going to switch my internet real quick. Hold on. I'm in the wrong. 1 second. I might go out for a second. There we go. All right, I'm back. All right, so Notre Dame needs to figure out what's going to be the situation at quarterback, right? So, to me, in my opinion, if you're going to go through the Cal game, especially, I don't think you're setting Steve Angeli up to be very successful if you throw him out there against Cal. Cal's got a good defensive staff. I don't know about their team. I don't know about their team, and I don't know about the specifics of their defense, but they know they have a very good staff. Justin Wilcox is a good defensive coach, and so I think you got to go with Pine in that situation. You need to get him ready to go, right? He came in against Wisconsin last year. He came in against Cincinnati last year. Like, he's played better defenses than what he's going to see against Cal. Notre Dame needs to be able to get him ready to go and win a game with Drew Pine. That needs to happen, right? Look. You recruited Drew Pine. You brought him in. I understand that you're not going to win a title with Drew Pine, but you need to be able to get him ready to go and get you competing against Cal to go win the game, right? And that needs to be the focus for Notre Dame, because to put Steve Angeli out there, who has not played in a college football game, that is not fair to him, in my opinion, unless he is just straight away a better option than Drew Pine. And frankly, if that was the case, he should be pushing Tyler Buckner, right? Because if he's that kind of talent, then that's what they need to do. So that's what I would say in terms of what they're going to do. You got to get Pine ready, right? He is a senior now, or at least an upperclassman. At least, I don't know specifically. Interestingly, he came into the season with more eligibility than Tyler Buckner had. He has 4 years, and Buckner only has 3. So he needed to get going, and he needs to get made ready to go. So I had a couple notes about the offense. and just like what is going on and what the problem is. And one of the problems that I think they have right now is they run too many formations for the fact that they're not really good at any one thing, right? You go from, they're in empty, and then they're in 4 wide, and then they're in 13, right? And then they're in double tight. And then they're in, just like they're doing all these different things and they're not good at any one thing. And I think that needs to just get shortened down, right? And part of that too is they're emphasizing their weaknesses and they're de-emphasizing their strengths, right? Their strengths right now, in my opinion, are getting the ball out to their wide receivers, namely Lorenzo Styles, right? Give him the ball in space, right? Give Michael Mayer the ball in space, right? He is a guy who we saw it yesterday. They threw him a little out route, made a guy miss, runs the ball down to the 1 yard line, right? And they go in to score, right? They're emphasizing their offensive line that is not a strength for them right now. Okay, so then de-emphasize that, right? Get the ball out quickly. Get the ball out to guys like Chris Tyree. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that Jamie and I talked about yesterday. Chris Tyree is not a huge part of this offense right now, for whatever reason. It's not something that I understand, right? I mean, he didn't get his first touch until until the end of the first half, when it was basically just a get off the field play. So I don't understand that, right? Like he is a speed back. He is an upperclassman. He's been around. He's played in big games. I mean, we thought that he would be the lead back. Not only is he not the lead back, he is de-emphasized in the offense. He had 5 touches yesterday, all but one in the second half. I thought he ran hard. They gave him the ball on a 4th and 1, and he gets hit in the backfield, and he powers his way to the first down. He had another run where he was hit and he stayed up for another couple yards. Like to me, when you see stuff like that, it reminds me of the Dexter Williams thing. When it reminds me of the Dexter Williams thing where in 2016, where Brian Kelly said he was the only guy who played hard against Duke. He was the only guy, and he'd give him more touches, and then you didn't, right? Like so. I don't understand what they're doing with him, but they need to get him more involved outside. Quick passes, get the ball in his hands and let him go. Get him in open space, because then you're not counting on the offensive line to be dominant. You're not counting on a bunch of time. The other part too is the play action game is just please do it more. Because yesterday, Tyler Buckner yesterday, okay. They dropped back on 11 of the 36 dropbacks were play action passes, right? 9 of 11, 82% completion percentage, 132 yards, 12 yards per attempt, right? Like that is efficient. That is, you are gashing the defense with play action passing, right? Straight dropbacks, 9 of 21, 69 yards, 3.3 yards per attempt, and 2 interceptions. Notre Dame is a better football team when they are running play action passing. And we saw this a bunch in 2020 when Notre Dame was a very good running team. They still de-emphasized the play action passing game. And that's something that I don't understand. I don't understand the not going play action as a staple of this offense. Right? It play action, and it doesn't matter if you can run the ball or not. That is not an indicator like that. There's a low correlation between being a good running team and being a good play action team. Okay. Poor running teams are good play action teams because the teams always respect it. There's statistics out there. They've run studies or whatever. Someone did a deep dive into this stuff, right? Running play action is the way to it'll always be effective, right? It's always going to achieve the desired outcome that you want. The linebackers are going to they're going to bite, they're going to hesitate, right? Same with the safeties. So they need to do more of that stuff, and yeah, Greg, I agree with this. Like It's tough, look, it's hard to someone told me, yesterday, 4 and 8 is good for the soul every now and then, and I said, Show me the 4, right? If you can't beat Marshall, show me the 4." It looks bad right now. I will say, the chances are, odds are that Notre Dame will get this figured out, right? That is the chances of it. The other part too is that 4 and 8 team in 2016. They were better on offense than Notre Dame is right now. I mean, that team was found ways to lose games. They were always winning. They lost a number of games where they James Amade. I think this might be my mom's friend. I'm not sure. Someone who went to high school with my parents. So if it is, then welcome to the show. And if not, then welcome to the show anyway. Um, I, I, so yeah, the 2016 was often in the lead, and this Notre Dame team is often not really in the lead. So it's a tough situation. RPO game, yeah, it's I don't know. They need more. They need more of that. Um, I wouldn't say I wouldn't even say wide receivers, because I would just say coaching to me, because this team is not very well prepared to play well right now. That's just from what I've seen. Like there is not a they're not they're not good at any one thing. They're fundamentally unsound. They are making mental errors. There's always some sort of execution mistake. Look, this is all points to a lack of preparation, right? And that's all coaching, like it is. And Notre Dame has to be looking at themselves as a coaching staff and saying, um, what are we not doing? Because, and Marcus Freeman referenced it at the end of the game, like he has to look at himself. The thing about, so everyone's run stadiums. So here's the thing, that's a punishment, right? And look, if you want to punish them, then fine. Okay. But in my opinion, if Freeman is going to have the players run stadiums, then all the coaches need to run stadiums too, because they're a part of it. Don't punish the players because they're not being prepared. So that's like, punishment isn't something that is going to elicit a change in behavior, right? That's not what punishment is for. Punishment is to get rid of an undesired behavior, and look, that's not how you increase their, like, I saw someone in the chat yesterday when Jamie and I were doing the post game. It's like, oh, take away the captain the C's or whatever. It's like, okay, well, what does that do? Is that the motivation that someone needs to play better, right? Like that's a punishment. That is to take away a behavior, right? So you want to eliminate something that is undesirable. That doesn't help the team get better. Let's see. It only looks like they prepared for one game and not the entire season when they lost last week to Air Defense. It's possible. The thing is that it's not like the preparation for Ohio State wouldn't manifest itself into being a good football team going forward, right? I understand the sentiment behind the fact that, like, the Ohio State game was clearly a focus, right? And look, we have to agree with one thing, right? There was Notre Dame fans were very critical of Brian Kelly and his notion that, get one of 11 or one of 12, right? This is just one more game on the schedule, de-emphasizing big games, and focusing on just the total picture, right? So then if we feel like Notre Dame focused too much on Ohio State and didn't prepare enough for Marshall, well, then if this is the outcome, like that, you can see why that's the other coaches would emphasize, like, hey, we have to get ready for a whole season, right? That's not what I think happened. Personally, I just think they're not very prepared right now. And the other part too is I wanted to bring up I think there's a general lack of accountability on this team, right? I've seen a lot of talk about and posts on Twitter and that sort of thing talking about uh, a lack of leadership. To me, that manifests itself in accountability, and what I mean by that is, so we see Isaiah Foskey after the drive, the long 90-yard drive. He's on the sideline and he's yelling at his teammates, right? And maybe he's trying to fire them up. Like I'm not saying he's berating them or anything. I think he's trying to motivate them and that sort of thing. But that's after the fact. You already gave up the drive. It that needed to happen previously. That needed to happen, you know, before the drive was given up. That's after. And it's the same thing with Jarrett Patterson getting mad after. Look, if he's going to get mad or whatever, I didn't see it. I wasn't there. I don't know what all goes into that. Taking off the jersey and doesn't want to stay for the alma mater. Like, I understand the frustration and that sort of thing, but that's after the fact. The game is already over. There's no point in carrying on after you've already lost. So to me, it's a lack of accountability. And football is the ultimate accountability sport, because you have your job, and if you don't do your job, then you affect everybody. You affect everyone, right? And so, Notre Dame's at 3rd and 3 at the 38-yard line, right? Have a chance they're up 15-12. They have a chance to go down and score and I don't want to say seal the game, because Marshall was a gritty group, right? So I don't want to say seal the game, but go up 2 scores in the fourth quarter, which greatly increases your chances of winning, right? It's 3rd and 3, and Patterson false starts, right? That's a mental error that is 100% on the captain of the team, right? So don't storm off like you've already. That is lacking accountability to your teammates and to everybody. You can't make that mistake, right? And so that's where I think this team needs to improve. They need to be more accountable to each other, right? I would just say Ian Book was a 3-star quarterback, right? I think we would take him. I think we would like it if I think he would like it if we would like it if Ian Book was starting at quarterback right now. Let's see. What changes would you make, Greg, if you were Freeman? What changes would I make? I don't know what he's doing specifically. What I would say on offense is I would condense what they are putting into the plan until they are good at something. Right? Because they're not really good at anything right now on offense, consistently good. Okay, so you need to figure out like what gives us our best chance. They need to de-emphasize the fact that their offensive line is not very good right now. They need to minimize their role in the game, right? Get the receivers more involved. Get Styles more involved. You need to get Tyree more involved. I don't know how they're like. The thing with Lindsey is they only use him one way. Now, granted, they had a touchdown to him. Reese dialed up a touchdown at the end of the first half. He's running all by himself, and Buckner missed him, right? And that's another one. Like accountability, you have to hit him. There's no excuse. You have to hit him. It's that these are the plays that win the game, right? And that's in this game. There were plays to be made that weren't being made by frontline players, and you have to do it, right? So that's what I would do as far as changes. There's he talked about before the game, before the season, he talked about how physical they were. Is that correct? Like, is that true? Do they need to increase physicality, especially up front? Right? Do they need to do more good on good in season? That's not normal. That usually doesn't happen, but they might need to do that. More good on good stuff. I think that they need to open it up to youth. You know, I don't see how you're not playing younger guys at this point. Like Tobias Merriweather, I don't know what he knows or what he doesn't know, but they at least have to be open to it. You know, you have to at least try because you're not getting anything out of you're not getting anything out of Jaden Thomas right now. You're not getting anything really out of Matt Salerno right now. And you only have the two wideouts that you're getting contributions from. You know, so look, um it can't just be those guys. You need to find a way to get Merriweather involved in there. It needs to be a priority because frankly, it's not like you have other wide receivers. It's just not. You don't. So and they need that. Um, I think they need to get out of. I think they need to get out of so much double tight. You know, I don't. They're not getting enough blocking. Um, you're not getting enough blocking from the tight ends in the run game to justify as many two tight end sets as you're running, right? It's weird to me that they think that having an extra tight end in the game is more effective than having Tyree in the game more. You know, especially when you see a guy who's clearly like who's playing with conviction and confidence to where it's like he wants the ball. Give me the ball. Like I want chances, right? You need to recognize that is one thing that needs to be recognized and that needs to be rewarded. You know, because I thought he played hard yesterday in the limited chances that he had. To answer Chris's question, is the O line after 2 games, is it worse? It's not worse than what they were last year after the first 2 games. So the last two, the first 2 games last year, they were worse. The problem is that they are much worse than what they ended the season at last year. And everyone, you know, poo-pooed like, oh, the schedule got weaker, right? Well, Marshall, you can't perform against Marshall. Is that because Notre Dame played USC and their offensive line was much better in that game? It's like, well, USC had a bad defense. Okay, well then you played Georgia Tech, who wasn't very good. Well, they're not very good. Okay, Navy's not very good. Virginia's not very good. Okay, Stanford wasn't very good. All right, that's fine. But they were all like Marshall isn't better than all those teams. So they are worse than last year's line, not at the start, but definitely at the finish. Last year's line was a good line. And even in the Fiesta Bowl, when they couldn't run the ball. True story. Couldn't run the ball in the Fiesta Bowl. Jack Cohn, 72 dropbacks in the Fiesta Bowl, 4 pressures or 4 sacks or whatever it was. Like in 72 dropbacks. Okay, that line performed in that game from a pass pro standpoint. They gave Notre Dame a chance to win. Okay, so Notre Dame's offensive line is not giving them a chance to win right now. So that is not a good situation for the offense, right? And that needs to be corrected. And so so to answer the question, it's not worse not worse than the start of last year, but there's definitely worse with the way they ended. Which is a real problem. And this is, to me, this is a fair comment. Notre Dame had said, someone commented to me, Brendan McElhin commented to me that Notre Dame passed on J.J. McCarthy, who had a really good game for Michigan yesterday. And I said, well, in fairness, like I don't know that J.J. McCarthy would be doing that at Notre Dame. I don't know that it's the problem. I don't know that it's. I can say Tyler Buckner is a problem. I haven't. So to answer this question, I haven't heard this. My nutrition program. I think all of our nutrition programs are in a bad way right now. I had to turn down a donut earlier. It's ridiculous. No, I don't think it's that. Especially after the first 2 games. They're definitely not. This is the sort of thing that would manifest itself into in November at the end of the year and that sort of thing. Brian Dembo. So this is an interesting comment. Oops, didn't come up. A culture problem, and it's hard to disagree with that, especially with the lack of accountability too. And because that is a culture issue, right? It's hard because Freeman was kept around to maintain the culture. So what is the issue with the culture then? Because what would happen, you would expect to happen is players leave, and then the players that come in like Foskey and Jason Adamilola and those guys, they take over and they are ready to inherit the culture and play to the standard that Notre Dame is used to, and that hasn't happened. So I don't think it's a wrong comment to make that there's a culture problem. It's just like, since we're not in the building, it's hard to pinpoint exactly where the issue is. Because look at I don't think that Marcus Freeman's issue is maintaining a culture. That doesn't make sense to me. There might be an issue with him as far as the way he's preparing practices and preparing the team, and the way that he's setting up practices, and the way that the team prepared all off season and in the fall camp and that sort of thing. Like, that is, I think, pretty clearly they missed the mark somewhere there. But as far as culture, it's hard to pinpoint that. So we're going to have to get more information, more information on what exactly the issue is there. But I think it's a fair comment. Like, I think there is a culture issue. So no, this is totally an aside from the problems with the football team. It's amazing that Marshall can it's amazing Marshall can go a whole game without a holding call. It just is, right? Like, it's that doesn't make a ton of sense, but officials are not why Notre Dame lost, but I think that is a true statement. Here's the other thing with the line. Who says no to a donut? I say the other thing is, like, I had a donut yesterday. I'm not supposed to have a donut yesterday. And I had one, and so let me see. Please tell me it was not our defense's fault we lost. It's not their fault per se, I guess, right? Like, they gave up 12 points. First, I appreciate, what, man? I appreciate you saying that I'm 20 something. I really do. I'm not 20 something. I'm like double 20 something. So tell me it was not the defense's fault. Here's the thing. And this is accountability, right? This is accountability problem. If the defense today is sitting at home thinking, well, we only gave up 12 points in the fourth quarter, and so therefore it's not our fault, it's on the offense or whatever, then that is a problem. That is an accountability problem, because the defense was winning in the fourth quarter. They gave up a 14-play, 91-yard or 11-play, 94-yard drive to lose the lead in this game against Toledo, right? That happened. On the main, I thought the defense was okay. They weren't awful. They didn't blow the game for them. They didn't put the offense in a bad position. In fact, their red zone defense was the only reason they were in the game. I mean, if their red zone defense was not very good, this would have gotten ugly. Okay, so there's that. But at the end of the day, they had a chance to stop them in the fourth quarter with the lead, and they didn't do it. Okay, so it's our analysis is that the defense of the two units is not the biggest problem right now. But I don't want any of those guys feeling like, hey, we held up our end of the bargain, because they didn't. Okay, you have a chance to stop them in the fourth quarter, and it didn't happen. That is on the defense. That is a defensive problem. Like, there is no aspect of the football team right now that can sit there and say, there's no aspect of the football team where you can say, oh, they're good, except for John Sott, who is a revelation. John Stott, and I gotta say, there's another problem here. I want to point out a couple of things. Tariq Bracy is playing his butt off. He is playing terrific football right now, and so that is a guy who isn't making excuses, who has raised his game in his last season at Notre Dame, and he is playing very well. I thought DJ Brown tackled like a serious player yesterday. He had 9 tackles. He had a couple of stops that were very important to keeping Notre Dame or keeping Marshall out of the end zone, and they had to settle for field goals, right? Like he had some stops that were in the open field that won't really show up on highlights or anything, or that not tackle for loss. But he had some stops where it was like, if he doesn't make this stop, it's going to be a touchdown, and he did. I thought DJ Brown played well. So again, I thought Tariq Bracy played well. Beyond that, I didn't think anyone had a great performance. It is interesting. I don't know about Jalen Sneed, but it is interesting that Prince Colley can't get on the field right now. That is one thing where it's like, okay, because Marist hasn't been the playmaker that we expected, right? And I noted in the offseason, like, we haven't heard about him, and we hadn't heard about anyone, okay? But we hadn't heard about Marist, and everything about Marist last year was hypothetical because he didn't get to play. We assumed that he was going to have an All-American season because of what we saw, what was seen in fall camp, right? But fall camp isn't games, So Marist and an injury was like, it was a bad injury, broke his leg. It wasn't like it was a badly sprained ankle or something, right? Like, so we don't know what we haven't seen him do it at a super high level in a game. So where's Prince Colley, right? Jalen Sneed is a little bit different, just because he's a freshman, and that's like, maybe he's just not ready, right? Like, you can't have people, out there blowing coverages and busts and that sort of thing, because that's what the defense doesn't have. They're not turning guys loose. Their level isn't high enough, right? So I don't think we're to the point where it's like, on defense you're going to play players who don't know the scheme and are going to turn guys loose. Like, that is not what you need. But for Prince Colley, like, he's been there a couple years now. It seems like it's time for him to. It seems like he needs to be seeing the field. I don't know that he saw any snaps yesterday from scrimmage. It might have been some special teams, but let's see. Press conference, pet names like J Pat need to stop. Heard one of the most off season. Look what happened yesterday. Coach Remember the boss be the boss. Yeah, I think look, stuff like that. Jamie and I talked about it. Stuff like that is people are the honeymoon is over, right? Like, you can't, the people are going to nitpick on things like that, right? And they're going to look at everything that is what we thought was charming at first, and now it's like not so charming, So I don't know that that's the problem per se, but I think he is going to find out that now it's going to be a little bit different in the reaction to some of the stuff that he says, and that's the way it goes. Tryouts for the rest of the season start tomorrow. I do think that when something like this happens, positions are up for grabs in a way. So I think everyone's pretty much on notice there. There are some people who, because here's the other thing, like, Notre Dame plays like on defense, right? Like, Notre Dame plays a lot of players on defense. So it's like, oh, your position's not safe. Well, it's like everyone's playing. It's not like everyone. There are a certain amount of guys that are getting all the snaps. Like the corners get subbed out, right? The linebackers. I guess you could look at the linebacker position and be like, we're going to play more guys, but like Bertrand and Bauer. I mean, like Junior Tulihalamaka, maybe he's more of an option. At Viper, I mean, we didn't get a ton from Foskey there, but Botelho's in there in the fourth quarter, and he was part of the group that gave up the long drive. Alex Ahrensberger was out there, and he was part of the group that gave up the long drive. So, they play a lot of people, right? So that's not That's not the big problem. My opinion on Brandon Joseph, I think that he was having a strong game until the last drive, and he gave up that he missed the tackle. He looked bad on the one tackle. He stuck his foot out and the kid just jumped over his foot. That was not good. And then he gave up the touchdown pass. I think prior to that he was playing okay. I think he was having a good game. He had a good punt return. But like that's another thing, man. Game's on the line and you gotta make the play. So this is interesting. I was thinking about this. Knew this was coming and got out before this started. I wonder if that's true. I do wonder. I don't think so. I don't think that he ever thought like, wow, this team isn't very good. Because he's not that type of guy. He wouldn't think that. I don't think he would ever think that he was going to put a bad product on the field. So that's that I don't think he would feel that way, but it did occur to me. So that's a fair thought that you had there. Let me see. Why the hell? Maybe he's not good at catching punts. That's punts are hard to catch. That's not an easy thing. It's not like a kickoff. So that's one thing I could see. We have a discipline problem. Period. I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true, and I think discipline goes to accountability as well. Because again, jumping off sides, false starting from Jarrett Patterson, and the play that Ramon Henderson missed, who only got 6 snaps yesterday. I was surprised by that. And again, he only got 6 snaps yesterday, but he was in the game in that fourth quarter, right? When he missed the play with the tight end goes in motion, the famous 3rd and 10. Tight end go into motion, and he loses eye discipline. He peeks into the backfield when he should just be following the tight end across the formation, right? But he peeks in the backfield, stops and turns, and then they throw it to the tight end. He's not in position, first down, and then the drive continues, and then they go all the way down the field. Like that is a perfect example of a lack of discipline and a lack of preparation, because a prepared player doesn't do that. A prepared player knows I cannot look in the backfield. I cannot. I need to follow him across the line of scrimmage, and I can't take my eyes off of him for any reason. That is what a prepared, well-coached player does. And it doesn't matter if Chris O'Leary has told him. It doesn't matter what you've told him. It only matters what he does. And if he has to be ready to do it. He has to be ready to perform on the day. And if he isn't, that is a coaching problem. Even if you've told him, you need to tell him to the point where that mistake doesn't get made. Because it's not complicated. It's not a complicated thing that they did. They've been doing it all game, right? He should have been able to do it, and he didn't. That is a lack of preparation. That is a lack of a lack of discipline, like you say. So it's a good comment, and I think that's true. Calling out problems and fixing them are two different things. Absolutely agree, right? And I think that's what Marcus Freeman was struggling with yesterday in the press conference, where he said, I need to look at what I'm doing. I need to look at what we are all doing, because he clearly did not know. I mean, I think for him, it's like, I came in and I'm motivating the team, and I'm building the team, and I'm doing the things that other people have told me to do. And I thought they were going to be this, and now they look like this. How do I fix that? Right. And he straight up said, I don't know if it's it's because I'm inexperienced, but I don't really know what the problem is. And so he needs to get it figured out. Let's see. So many things to discuss: lack of urgency, poor tackling, blocking, terrible passing routes. Mayer was wide open on the pick 6. Agree. Again, preparation. They are not good at anything. There's no thing on offense that they are actually good at. They are not excellent at any one thing across the board. And it's preparation. That it's over and over again. That's what it is, right? And you can say, you can say the players need to make the plays and that sort of thing. When it's across the board, it is a preparation problem. I agree that he was not excited. I think that he felt embarrassed, right? He felt like this game is over. We're losing to Marshall, and I think he was embarrassed. Um, in a perfect world, he's showing more leadership than that, but it is a normal human emotion to feel like it's too little, too late. And frankly, I would rather he acted like that than to do some sort of like spiking the ball and doing like a dance or something. I'd rather he was upset, and I'd rather he was downtrodden, the fact that they were probably going to lose. Um and and I would rather he was like that than in doing some sort of dance or whatever thing. So here's the thing. I heard this a little bit yesterday too. Lou Holtz inherited a bad team. He didn't. Lou Holtz was not brought in because Jerry Faust left to go coach Miami. You know, he would he they, Holtz was brought in because the previous coach was fired. That was the problem. That's why people were okay with it. I mean, he lost to Michigan in the opener, and people were like, "Well, they almost won. That's great." Like it's a different situation. This was an 11-1 team last year, 11-2. I mean, you can't. The year before, they're in the playoffs. So that's not the Holtz thing. Is that doesn't play for me. Um, so I appreciate like trying to add some context to everything, and I get it, right? People said that Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe in his first year. True. Again, didn't inherit an 11-1 Bama team. That's different, and the expectations are different. And the whole offseason, people, and I don't think I ever said it publicly, but I had a conversation with the 1 Foot Down guys about the floor of this team. And I said, look, the floor is low because of the questions, because it's lower than other teams because of the questions that they had at quarterback. That they didn't have the proven experience for as far as playmakers. And I said 6-6 is the floor, and frankly, that might be too high. I think the floor is a little bit lower, unfortunately. Um, I don't. I don't pay attention to it when Notre Dame is like undefeated and it ranks them low, and I'm not going to pay attention to that. No one thinks that this team is good. They're not playing well. Let me see some more comments. We don't know this yet. Okay, I would hold off. We don't know that's true. Okay, I fair point. They don't look good right now. He doesn't look good right now. If that's a fair point, but we don't know that that's true. Okay. Sean Kelly, I do not think this is good for recruiting. Let's see. Lost the team in off season. Just look at this, and man, just accept the fact that bad players in the bad team. I don't think that's true either. I don't think they're. I don't accept that. I don't accept that. Like I think they're better than this. They've played better than this. Every single one of these guys has played better than this. That's just true, right? But it's about bringing them together. They need to find a way. And one thing I think is a positive from this that can be taken as a positive, right? Like it's not positive to lose to Marshall, but what will happen now is all those players are going to meet today, and they are going to realize that no one thinks they're good. Everyone thinks that they stink, and that this is a terrible football team, and that they are an embarrassment. That's what they will realize that other people think. Okay. That is going to cause them to really insulate inside the building. Okay. They are, I mean, there is going to be a come to Jesus moment today. That is going to happen. And there is going to be a passionate meeting. I guarantee you, there is going to be a passionate meeting. All the captains are going to speak. There is going to be emotion, and they are going to decide that this is not. So going forward, like the part of the problem with being in a Marshall game, anytime if it's close at all, you're already feeling bad about yourself. It shouldn't be close. This shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be in this game with Marshall, right? And that is a shock to the system. You tighten up when you're in that position. From now on, Notre Dame knows in every single game this year, it doesn't matter if in every single game this year, it doesn't matter who they are playing. They are going to be the underdog. Okay, no one thinks that they're going to win. They know that every single game they are going to be in a battle. Okay, they are going to be in a fight. All right, and if they are to be, and especially now that they may be without Tyler Buckner for an extended period, for it doesn't, like I said at the top of the show, it didn't look good. The fact that he was immediately out, the way he dangled his arm like that, I mean, that reminded me of Michael Floyd when he broke his collarbone, frankly. And I'm not saying he broke his collarbone. I have no idea. But it's just like that's what he did. He just went down. Okay. So if they're going to be without him, okay, they really need to tighten up, and and that will cause them to come together. So I think that there's going to be a come to Jesus moment for the team today. What type of team is this going to be? What type of season are they going to have? Um, so it, I think if you start Drew Pine, I think you definitely need to get Angeli ready to go. We don't know where he is, but that competition, if you're without Tyler Buckner, that competition is going to open up, and they need to see where it's going to go. But I do think the team is going to rally around each other because all they have is each other now at this point, right? That's true, but they've been that's been this like this forever. This isn't a new thing. Um, I mean, what my fair. My point is that mentally, this puts them in a better place. I think. I think that the task is clear. It's no longer like you're no longer going to the playoffs. You're no longer going to be a playoff team. You're probably not even. You're not even going to be a New Year's Six team. You need to. But this is about. Um, this is about playing for. I don't want to say. I hate saying playing for pride, but it's like competence, excellence. Play as best as you can. Play as hard as you can. Eke out every single win you can, because the alternate is just giving up and losing and being a poor team, being an embarrassing team. I don't think they want to do that. So I think now you have an opportunity to rally around each other. Um, so let's see. Appreciate the content. You know what, man? I'm here to I'm here to I'm here to get people through it. I need to get through it too. We're all doing that. This is about honor. Thank you. This is about honor. It's a little bit hyperbolic, but we'll go with it. We'll go with it. It's about honor, strength, and honor. All right. What happens? Okay. If we win out the rest of the year, then Notre Dame will finish probably somewhere in the top 10. That's what I would say. I do not predict that. That is not going to happen. So yeah. Let's see. You know what I love? Notre Dame will never stop either. Season not over till 3 top 10 teams left to prove ourselves. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like you said, you have a season to go. You have a whole season to play, and you're a football player at Notre Dame. You need to have some pride. This is a healing session. We do need to heal. We do need to heal. You know what, man? I appreciate you guys for being here. Right? We got 100, almost 200 people watching the show right now, and I appreciate that. And it validates the fact that I didn't know if this would be a thing that people liked last week, and we have more this week than we did last week, and hopefully we keep building. Right? Let's keep building. Let's keep building this. I like talking about the game the morning after. I always want to do it. So I appreciate everyone being here. And if it's your first time and if you like what you see, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, right now. Hit the subscribe. It's free. It costs $0. Literally. Everyone says, oh, nothing is free. This is free. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Do it, please. Thank you. All right. The talk is real. Yes, I'm being as honest as we can. Honestly, I think people need to wrap their minds around this might be the outcome. Okay. I don't know about lucky to be 6. This might be right. Okay. Like, because especially if Buckner is out, okay, you're talking about Steve Angeli, who might be who is a true freshman, right? Not meant to play this year. Okay, that is not a good situation. Okay, that is not. He might show he might play well this year, and Notre Dame will go 6-6. Um, that's just true. Okay, it is not a good. You are not dominant at the quarterback position. Okay, unless he is the next coming, which would be amazing. Um, but we need to wrap our minds around the fact this might be 6-6. Okay, change your perspective right now, because this is not this is not a great football team right now. Okay, um, so that we need to wrap our minds around the fact that okay, this is going to be a tough year. It's going to be a tough year. Um, let's see, somewhere in Baton Rouge. He told us nothing. I don't. This is it's like a weird comment. He told us nothing. Here's the other thing: is like people act like Notre Dame wanted him to leave. He left of his own volition. It's weird how people like it's almost like Notre Dame chose Freeman over Kelly, which is not what happened. They had to choose like they had to make a hire because he left. So like it's just a weird it's like a weird thing that's going on. I don't think so. I don't think Cal's good, but that's Notre Dame isn't good. That's the Notre Dame is bad. Okay, so that's why it's like we look at like Boston College, right? Like it's a weird thing. I was watching Boston College or watching along with like the box score and everything, and I look at this and I'm like, man, Boston College stinks. They stink. Like they're not like they rushed for like 5 yards yesterday. Phil Jerkovic did not have a good game, but Notre Dame isn't very good either. So we got to look at things totally different. Like where we look at the schedule and say, oh, here's a win and here's a win, here's what. No, we're not doing that. We can't do that now. It's a big. Notre Dame's in a different place now. Eke out any win you can. Eke out any win you can. Don't be afraid to scrap for it either. Don't have too much pride to where it's like we're not going to get down in the dirt with Cal or Stanford. Stanford can move the ball, man. They moved the ball in USC yesterday. I'm telling you that this is going to be tough. Every week is going to be tough, right? You can't assume wins anymore for the rest of the year, and cherish every win that they get, because especially again if Buckner is down, which I think it might be a bit. It might be a bit, and if it's a broken collarbone or a broken clavicle or whatever, then we're not seeing him for this season. Frankly, it's just that's how it's going to go. So we need to be ready for that. So I talked about this. So Mark Monroe, I talked about this at the beginning of the show. So you can, there's a way you can just rewind and go back to what I said. It's funny how you say it's stale though, because in my opinion, I think it means stale. Like we run the same stuff that doesn't work. I think that's what you mean. I think they're doing too much on offense. There's too many formations. There's too much movement for the fact that they are not good at any one thing. When I say movement, I mean you're going 5 wide, and then you're going 13, and then you're going double tight, and then you're going like they're doing all these things. They're not good at any one thing. They do too much. You need to find a way to emphasize your strengths, de-emphasize your weaknesses. Right now, they're emphasizing their weaknesses with the line, and they're not emphasizing their strengths, which is getting the ball outside to guys like Lindsey and Styles and Tyree. So, but thank you, Mark, for being in the show. The younger bucks with higher ceilings. So the thing with the upperclassmen piece, so the thing is that they need to be more accountable to the team. They need to be more accountable to their teammates. They need to be more accountable to the fact that this is their responsibility. That's the thing about being upperclassmen. It's your responsibility. There's a difference between being a contributor and being the reason that Notre Dame is going to win games, right? And that's why I think they need to go with Tyree more, because he is that upperclassman. You need to put it on him. You need to put it on his shoulders. Again, especially because they may be without their quarterback. Okay, so that is the thing. They need to be more accountable to the way that they play. Just 7 points at halftime. BYU and Syracuse to destroy the Irish and the Dragons. Could Notre Dame be worse? I don't know that they could be worse. Not than yesterday, right? And look, the Ohio State game is looked at differently because that's a good team, obviously. But I do think that I do think that they weren't good in that game either. So that's just the truth. They weren't very good and they didn't execute very well. All right, a couple more and then I got to get going because my morning is starting up. My kids are awake and I gotta get them going. So they have to get the ball in the hands of 25. Absolutely, we've talked about that a lot. Chris Tyree needs more touches. He needs to be more involved. What happens if we do end up losing the Cal? Then you try to win the next one after that. There's nothing that happens. I mean, maybe you could start thinking about coaching changes at that point in terms of assistants, right? But I don't see how that is a benefit to anything. I think you just got it. Okay, we lost, and you got to try to win the next one, and you try to win the next one, try to win the next one, try to win the next one. Like it's beyond like you never try to stop improving. Always try to be a better program. Always try to be a better football team, right? Wins and losses aside, this isn't about your record at this point, and it's not about your being embarrassed. It's not about embarrassment. It's not about anything like that. It's like, okay, we need to find a way to win games. That is the key to everything. That is, it doesn't matter if you're 0-3. Okay, try to be 1-3. Try to be 2-3. Try to get 3-3. And then you build from there, right? Because that's when it's about like, okay, pride, excellence, doing whatever you can. So that's what you got to keep doing. Probably. I mean, I don't know. Fired. No. I don't think so. And frankly, I don't think we're gonna get to that point. Hopefully not, but I don't think so. I think they're gonna be okay in terms of Freeman and that sort of thing. I think we'll have to end it with this one. Go Irish, things will turn around. I appreciate that sentiment. And I'm gonna have to end this chat because I hear my kids, they're screaming and my wife's gonna get mad at me. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We will go again next week after the game. We are going to, Jamie and I are going to have a new show. Look out for Jamie and I's show on Tuesday, right around 3:30 Eastern time. We're gonna do kind of like a film breakdown thing. We're gonna draw up some plays. We're gonna show some scheme stuff. You're gonna want to check that out. Power Hour comes out tomorrow. I'm gonna be doing some pre-recorded videos. You're gonna want to check that out on Irish Sports Daily as well. Thank you, Flamong. This has to be Matt Freeman. Thank you, Matt. You're my best friend. Thank you very much. So check us out on Irish Sports Daily. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Okay. Head to irishsportsdaily.com. Christian McCollum had some post up about reaction from recruits. I know a lot of people are concerned about that. You're going to want to check those out. So Power Hour tomorrow, Tuesday live show, videos coming out Thursday live show, and then stay locked in. All right. I appreciate everyone for being here. Have a good Sunday. We will talk to you on Tuesday.